Good morning, Bucknutters. Welcome to the Bucknuts Morning 5 here on Wednesday, February 4th, 2026. I am Dave Biddle, flying solo on today's show. We're going to take a look at the quarterbacks, especially Julian Sayin on today's show. I'm going to talk about the other three quarterbacks as well that are on the roster, Tavian St. Clair, Luke Fahey now is a true freshman. And then they brought in the fifth-year senior, Justin Martin, who had played at UCLA, played at Maryland. I mean, of the guys that Ryan Day has gotten to fill that role, that veteran that you bring in to kind of – he always likes having four scholarship quarterbacks in the room. He, on paper at least, is like the best of those guys that he's brought in, like the Gunnar Hoax, the Tristan Gebbia, Chugginoff. Chugginoff, did come in and complete a pass in the Michigan game in 2019 when Fields had to leave for like one play after getting blasted and came back in because he's tough as nails, Justin Fields. I mean, those guys all like serve their purpose, but this is a good get, I think. Hopefully he's not going to need to play. Tavian's going to be the backup if everything goes according to plan, and Ryan Day talked about that. But mostly we're going to talk about Julian Sayin on today's show, what to expect from him in year two. Ryan Day's excited about it. Ryan Day had his radio show on last Friday, about 5 days ago now, and man, he went through the entire roster. He stayed for the whole hour of the show. Usually for his radio show during the season, he'll turn it over to one of his assistant coaches for the last segment, sometimes the final two segments. Sometimes they'll even have a player on. This was just, other than commercials, it was like 60 minutes of just Ryan Day just talking about the Buckeyes. And he's really excited about Julian, everything about it, because first time since 2022, it's not like it's been that long, so 4 years, but first time since 2022, the Buckeyes have their starting quarterback returning. And that's huge. That's huge. Julian's going to be a third-year sophomore now. And I know the way the year ended, but I'm pretty bullish on the offensive line coming into this year. The offensive line did him no favors, though, those last two games. And I really thought the coaching was lacking, too. Hopefully he runs the ball a little bit more. Ryan Day did not talk about that. And that's a Ryan Day thing, though. We can just know that. Justin Fields has talked about that. C.J. Stroud's talked about it, that he tells his quarterbacks not to run. Now, Will Howard was the exception. I think Chip Kelly was like, no, we have to run this guy. And again, I say it all the time. I don't need Julian Sayin out there acting like he's Lamar Jackson, but can he pick up like one or two cheap first downs with his legs every game? Just one or two. Those can be backbreaking, especially when you're an elite passing offense. And I think they're going to be a better rushing offense this year. And Arthur Smith, his background is offensive line. He was an offensive lineman. That's another reason I love that hire. Tyler Bowen, I just didn't think schematically it was there. I don't put it all on the players. I mean, obviously some of it's on the players, but three of those guys on that offensive line, really four of them, including Tegra, played a ton on the national championship team. And the offensive line played well. Justin Fry coached those guys up. So I think having Arthur Smith around will help the offensive line schematically. And hopefully Tyler Bowen in year two will be improved. But Julian Sayin, I think at the end of the year, I think we all went from like, oh, he's going to win the Heisman to, oh, geez, he didn't look that good the last two games. I get it. But, man, when you got Indiana's defense and then Miami's defense, who ended up being number one and number two in the nation, really good defensive lines, get it in your face all game, that's tough sledding. Now, I'm not going to make too many excuses because he did look a little rattled out there, but I put it mostly on the offensive line those last two games. Still, we got to take a step back. Julian Sayin was the youngest Heisman finalist in many, many years. Many years. I think it was like, they said like 20 years or something like that. Maybe not that many. But it's been a while. There's been other redshirt freshmen that have been there, but I think he was younger than them. I'd have to go back and check, but it's for the first time in a long time that somebody that young has been a Heisman finalist. I'm excited about that. And now he has a whole offseason to know he's the guy. Ryan Day talked about it. There's no mystery. I love how I like that he's doing that. He does that when the guy's coming back as a starter. He does not like naming the starter if he's a first-year starter until during camp, even when it's completely obvious. Like Justin Fields in 2019 against Gunnar Hoax and Chugginoff. He waited till 2 weeks before the season to say Justin Fields was a starter when we all knew he was. We knew Julian Sayin was going to be the starter this year. Nothing against Lincoln. I'm going to be rooting like crazy for Lincoln at Louisville. But there was just no doubt Julian Sayin was going to be the starter. Ryan Day knew that all along. He just wanted it to play out. I don't have a problem with that. But I do like now he's just like, no, Julian's our guy. Tavian's got to be ready because you guys have seen the schedule. This is what Ryan Day says. You guys have seen our schedule. We got to make sure Tavian's ready. Luke's got to be ready, and he thinks Justin is going to come in and at least add competition to the room. An older guy, Justin Martin. I would say you can get him and use him as a running quarterback sometimes. Big 6'5", 230, but Coach Day doesn't like to run the quarterback too much. But hopefully they do that a little bit more. He's excited about Julian because he completed 77% of his passes. We're all like, he's going to be like the first one to go like 80%. So he finished a little lower than that, but like 77% on the dot, 32 touchdowns, 8 interceptions. I mean, that's really good for a redshirt freshman. And yeah, I get it. You're throwing to Jeremiah Smith and Carnell Tate and those guys. That helps the cause. But still, 3,600 yards, 77 completion percentage, 32 touchdowns, 8 interceptions. All right. He also took 16 sacks, 10 of which were in the last two games. Eesh. Took 6 sacks through the regular season. 6. And 10 combined against Indiana and Miami. So the offensive line was not doing him any favors. I think having a beefed up running game is going to help. Bo Jackson's going to be better in year 2 than year 1, and he was good as a true freshman. Isaiah West is going to be better. Jacoby Jackson, to me, is going to be an upgrade clearly over C.J. Donaldson as that guy they want to come in and use like that as that veteran downhill runner. He is a downhill runner. Now, I'm a little concerned he's had injury problems, but that's why he's here. I mean, he's a 7th-year senior. He wouldn't be here if he didn't have those the injury. Like last year, he played in 4 games. That was supposed to be his last year, 6th-year senior, and he's able to take a medical redshirt because he got hurt last year. So if he can stay healthy, he's not like that big of a guy, but you guys know, I mean, sometimes those running backs are like 5'11", like 215. He might not even be 5'11". He might be like 5'10 and a half, 220. Those guys can sometimes be like those battering rams, like that are really, really tough to bring down. They're just low center of gravity. They're just Carlos Lachlan-like, maybe not that quite. It's hard to be as muscular as Locke, but you know what I mean? Those guys are just low to the ground, low center of gravity. They just get after it. They're just built like a rock. That's kind of Jacoby Jackson, and he's not coming here to be RB1. He's fighting to be RB2, RB3. So I like that. And, man, Coach Day gushed about Legend Bay. Everybody took the poor man's Tyreek Hill and ran with it. Oh, I hope he didn't mean like off the field. I even made corny jokes like that. No, for him to compare Legend Bay to Tyreek Hill, the speed and burst, because, I mean, probably not anymore at his age and with the injuries, but there was a time when I don't know if I have the data to back this up, but I think Tyreek Hill was the quickest player in the NFL, maybe the fastest. I mean, we nicknamed the Cheetah, and you could just see it. He's like a dart. And for Ryan Day to compare Legend Bay, who has not even played it, he should be still in high school, to Tyreek Hill, that type of burst. I mean, Legend's going to play running back for the Buckeyes. So he's going to play right away as a true freshman. There's no doubt about it. You listen to what Ryan Day said, there's no question about it. Legend Bay is going to play right away. Let's get back to Julian Sayin. He needs to get a little stronger. Ryan doesn't think he needs to put on like 10 pounds or anything, but he just needs to, keep getting stronger, maybe put on like 5 pounds, because he put on some good weight from true freshman year when he redshirted to redshirt freshman year. So he already went up from like, 200 to 208, something like that. He told me at National Championship Media Day in 2024 in Atlanta, so the day before the game, or maybe it was 2 days before the game against Notre Dame, he told me he was 202 pounds. I remember that. I had a one-on-one interview with Julian at Media Day, and he told me he was 202, so he was 208 to start this past year. So, yeah, get him up like 213-ish. I mean, he's never going to be a big, sturdy quarterback, but he's 6'2". I mean, he's listed at 6'1", but I think he's pretty close to 6'2". He says he's 6'2", and he looks 6'2" to me, at least in shoes he's 6'2". Because a lot of people have asked, is he really like 6 foot? Like, no. He's definitely 6'1.5" at least. Let's go with that, 6'1.5". So again, not the biggest guy, but so accurate, so poised. And if he could show that poise as a redshirt freshman, again, there's sometimes he looked rattled. It's natural. But if he could show that poise as a redshirt freshman, look what he's going to do now as a third-year sophomore with all those starts under his belt, going from 0 starts entering this past season to 14 starts under his belt. That's huge and very productive. So I'm really excited about Julian Sayin. I think because of the way the year ended, a lot of people, not a lot, but some fans, it just feels like, have backed off the Julian Sayin bandwagon. I mean, if you have, get back on. It's a good bandwagon to be on. Get back on that bandwagon because he's going to have a big-time year. There's no doubt about it. And I'm really excited to see what he's going to do with, Arthur Smith is more like going to help with the run game, like passing attack. Ryan Day, pretty darn good with that. But still having that complementary running game, having a better offensive line, They're bringing back 91 starts combined on the offensive line, 91 career starts on this. That's with losing Tegra, who had a bunch of starts under his belt. 91 career starts, mostly, obviously, Saraveld, Montgomery, Hinsman, the big three. Those guys combined for 89 career starts. And then Gabe Van Sickle has 2 after Tegra got hurt and Gabe started a couple games. Ian Moore has some experience. That's going to help Julian a lot. Coach Day talked about his leadership. He thought he did a good job as a redshirt freshman who's not outwardly vocal. He said he did a good job leading by example. When he does talk, people listen. He's like, he's going to take that. He didn't say he needs to. He said he will take that next step as a leader. He's like, this offseason is going to be huge. And he's excited. He's like, Julian is he's very cerebral. It means a lot to him. He really wants this team to do well. There wasn't any crazy, oh, you better give Julian Sayin all this crazy money to stay. Like, he's being well taken care of, but he wasn't trying to oh, this school might offer me this. Ohio State, you have to match this. There was none of that nonsense from him. And Coach Day just thinks he's got the perfect mindset going into this off. He didn't say perfect. He likes his mindset a lot going into the offseason. Leadership, just focused on the team, focused on getting better, just focused on all the right things. Julian comes from a really good family. His brother was a really good quarterback in the Ivy League at Penn. Sister, very, very successful. Good parents. Great family, and you can just see it out of him. He's a good young man, and he didn't let all the hype go to his head, and he's just focused on having the Buckeyes be as good as they can this year. So I'm excited about that. And he's as accurate as I've seen a quarterback. Hopefully, again, having this running game, in theory, get going this year is going to help Julian a lot, because then it's pick your poison. If you start to then cheat on the running game, he's going to hit you deep. Okay, if you back off, then they're going to run the ball at you. And Legend Bay is going to bring an element of speed that they haven't had. Hopefully, Turbo Rogers too. And some of the guys that got in the portal at wide receiver are not going to play huge roles, but what are they? McEwen is kind of the kid from Texas, San Antonio. He's quick, he's fast, veteran. Same thing with the kid from LSU. Followed his former wide receiver coach here, Cortez Hankton. He's another guy, not that big, 5'11", 195, but quick, fast. Those guys aren't going to be like Paris Campbell, though. Legend Bay is faster, perhaps, than Paris Campbell. I've heard 4.33. So at least right there, we know Paris Campbell can fly. The fastest I've seen, I'm sure you guys would agree, Teddy Ginn. I don't think he's that fast, but to compare him to Tyreek Hill, that's awesome. So that's going to help Julian a lot. And Ryan Day talked about that they needed more of a speed element. JJ's very fast, but they needed those little Tyreek Hill types, Paris Campbell types that are just, Dan and I were talking on the Monday show. When you hit the corner, it looks like a couple different defenders have the angle on him. He just blows past them. That's what Ohio State needs to complement everything else they're doing. So, I think Brandon Ennis is going to have a good year. I think not having Max Clare on the team is going to help Brandon Ennis, because Max Clare was really the slot receiver most of the time. He wasn't really a tight end. He was basically a slot receiver. I think Brandon Ennis is going to have a relatively big year. Nothing crazy, but because he's going to be the true slot receiver. And I think Chris Henry Jr. is going to be the other starter as a true freshman. If not, maybe McEwen will be a starter. Or I know they like Phillip Bell. I know that they like him a lot too. So we'll see. But yeah, I'm really high on Julian. I think if I had to pick one player to win the Heisman, I saw The Athletic predicted Jeremiah Smith. A lot of people are predicting Arch Manning. He's the betting favorite again. Nobody learned anything from last year. No, he finished the season strong. I get it. CJ Carr. A lot of people have CJ Carr. I'm not seeing a lot of Julian Sayin love. That would be my pick if I had to I wouldn't bet the farm on. I'm just saying, if you said you have to pick one player that's going to win the Heisman this year, Julian Sayin. He was a finalist last year. At one point, he inched ahead of Mendoza to be the favorite in the betting odds. And then, obviously, Mendoza, just rightfully so, just credit to that kid. He earned it and then some. But Julian was a finalist last year. He's coming back. He's going to be in New York again. I think he's going to win it. I'm not going to believe the Arch Manning hype until I see it. He improved. He went from, I can't believe this guy has all this hype. Only reason he has the hype is because his last name is Manning. He went from that to, okay, all right, this guy could possibly be a good college quarterback. I'm not buying he's like fantastic though. I mean, I saw what I saw last year. Not just the Ohio State game, but even like again, he finished the season strong. But I'm just not buying the Arch Manning hype. CJ Carr, I could buy that a little bit more probably, but I think Julian's going to win it. So that's my expectations for him. Not to put any too much on his plate or anything. What do you expect from Julian? Heisman. I say that somewhat facetiously because I'm not saying that like he has to win the Heisman. I'm definitely expecting him to win the Heisman. Just like I said, if I had to pick one player to win the Heisman, it would be Julian Sayin. I mean, he's going to have. I think he's going to throw for over 4,000 yards. He had 32 touchdowns this year. He's going to approach 40. I mean, he's going to improve his numbers. There's just no doubt about it in year 2. And keep in mind how they kept him like under wraps early. Speaking of that Texas game, Julian threw the ball 20 times. He was 13 of 20, 4 drops in that game. JJ had 2. Max Clare dropped the first pass of the year on that 4th down against Texas. And Brandon Ennis had a drop. So he should have been 17 of 20, but only threw the ball 20 times. You think he's going to throw the ball 20 times against Texas this year in Austin? No, sir. I'm excited about that. Bo Jackson didn't even play against Texas. They were thinking Bo was going to be RB3. It didn't take them long. And then by the Washington game, he was starting. By week 2, it was clear he was the best running back on the team, but he didn't even play against Texas. Maybe by week 3. Which one? Wait, it was the OU game? Well, yeah, week 2. Week 2. So offensive line's going to be better. They're bringing all these guys back. They only lost Tegger, and I think even without the injury, I think Van Sickle, Padilla, etc., maybe move somebody else to guard and put Ian Moore in there. He looked good as well. I don't think Tegger really was going to start as a 5th-year senior if he came back. I wish him well at Kentucky. Great young man. But, man, you look at the offensive line's going to be better. I have no doubt about that. The offense in general is going to be better with Arthur Smith as offensive coordinator instead of Brian Hartline. Brian Hartline, best wide receiver coach in the nation, best recruiter of wide receivers in the nation. It's not even close. But as an offensive coordinator, I just didn't see it. I mean, to the point where Ryan Day had to take back over play calling duties for most of the season, I was told. Maybe he didn't have to, but Ryan Day decided to, whereas Chip Kelly called plays the previous year. And Ryan's going to be heavily involved, just like he was with Chip, but Arthur Smith is going to be the play caller. That's going to help in his background with the offensive line. So the offensive line is going to be better. Wide receiver room still going to be one of the best in the nation, despite losing Carnell Tate. Yeah, they lost those young guys, but it'd be nice to have Quincy Porter and Mylan Graham around. They both went to Notre Dame, but find me a better wide receiver room than Jeremiah Smith, Brandon Ennis, Chris Henry Jr., the number 1 wide receiver recruit in the nation. The 2 veteran guys they got in the portal as wide receiver 4 and 5 in theory. Phillip Bell is your number 6 receiver. He could be number 4, as high as number 4, perhaps. If Chris Henry Jr. is not ready as a true freshman, he'll be ready as a true freshman. But if for some reason he's not, Phillip Bell could perhaps be that 3rd starter. But I think it's going to be Chris Henry Jr., and then you have good depth there, even losing some of those guys. Desi Jones is another one that's going to add some depth. And they got some freshmen coming in other than Chris Henry that can add some depth, like Boyd and Guilford and some of those guys. So Brock Boyd was underrated. He's going to be one of those guys I think that people are going to look back like, how is he a 3-star prospect? He was extremely productive, like against great competition in Texas. And he was a 3-star. Brian Hartline and Ryan Day wanted him. He was a 3-star. Are you sure about that? He's going to be one of those guys we're going to look back and say, how the heck was he a 3-star? I don't know if Brock Boyd's going to play a lot as a true freshman, but I bet he'll play. So I expect a ton out of this offense this year. Improved running game. The passing game will be better, I think, because Julian's going to be in year 2. He's not going to have the chains on him. But I can't stress it enough, man. I want to see him run the ball a little bit. And it's a ripple effect. It's not just picking up that first down, although that's huge in that moment. What else does it do? The defense has to at least account for it. Nobody's accounting for the quarterback run when they play Ohio State. They're in there. The defense is in there thinking, all right, especially teams that know they're a big underdog against Ohio State. Not necessarily the Miamis and the Indianas. Well, the Miami was a pretty big underdog against the Buckeyes. But those teams that know they have to punch above their weight to have a chance to beat the Buckeyes, their defensive coordinator or defensive staff are in their meeting saying, okay, we know Ohio State likes to do this. What they'd never do on offense is run the quarterback. So we can just take that out of the mix. We can focus on, covering the wide receivers. If we're going to, blitz, we can blitz him, not worry about he's going to run. We can run blitz at times. If he's going to try to do the zone read, we know he's not keeping the ball. We can just go attack the running back. You know that that's what defensive coordinators are doing. You got to take that off their plate and be like, okay, well, now Ohio State has now shown that occasionally he will keep it. He'll fake it to the running back and he'll do a bootleg or whatever. He'll keep it every once in a while. You have to have that. So you're going to get a cheap first downs, which are huge, backbreaker for a defense, especially when you're facing Ohio State. You think you're off the field and bam, quarterback runs around and gets a cheap first down. That's just a backbreaker. But then later in the game, they have to account for it. They can't just assume. I mean, they could, but they're probably not just going to assume he's never going to run when they just saw him get a first down or two, or maybe run for a touchdown, do a naked boot and get a touchdown. No one, I mean, that would be the easiest thing to do. Don't do it maybe in the opener against Ball State, but maybe against Texas. There's no way, because, Texas is, they're thinking there's no way this kid's going to run the ball. And then he runs the ball. All right. I got a busy day, so this is going to be one of our shorter shows, but I wanted to delve deep about the quarterbacks. And I will say this, Tavian St. Clair is Ryan Day said he's big, strong, physical, did a good job on the scout team, but he needs to be ready. This is a big offseason for Tavian. So it's not just about Julian, but that's why I like to have the depth. I mean, Luke Fahey, underrated in my opinion. Speaking of another 3-star in the class, I don't think you never know. I mean, we know what happened in 2014. You never say never, but I don't think Luke Fahey is going to play as a true freshman. And then, bringing Justin Martin in, that adds, as I was saying, that adds like a veteran presence. He hasn't played a lot. He hasn't been that productive, but having a fifth-year senior, it's a big guy. He's played at UCLA and Maryland. That's pretty good for an emergency number 4 quarterback, or maybe he'll be the number 3 quarterback. Maybe he'll push Tavian for that second string job, but that needs to be Tavian. Because I think this will be the last year of Julian. I think Julian will go pro after this coming year. So another reason, you gotta soak it in. So I really like this quarterback room. I'm excited that for the first time since 2022, the Buckeyes have a starting quarterback returning. Arthur Smith coming in. I'm just excited about this team, man. Spring ball is going to be kicking off in about a little more than a month, right around March 10th. Then we have the spring game on April 18th. They're going to go back to doing how they did it, where they're going to have 1 week of practice. Then the guys are going to go on spring break. Hopefully they don't, do anything too crazy on spring break. Not that any of us did that, right? And then they'll come back and they'll have the rest of spring ball. That's how they did it a little different last year because they played so deep into the season. This year they're going back to how they did it the previous year and the years before that. All right, guys, I appreciate it. Thank you very much for joining me, talking some quarterbacks here on the show and just kind of the offense in general. Time to get excited. And I love the fact that the coaching staff and the personnel is exactly what I want. You had the veteran offense. I was like, man, it'd be nice if all these offensive linemen come back. I think they will. Saraveld and Hinsman and Montgomery. I think they will, but I hope you never know till you know. And we know that all those guys are coming back. The big 3 and those young guys are going to get ready to go. Padilla and Moore, Van Sickle. They like Jake Cook. Hopefully Carter Lowe can take a step. Maybe Sam Greer could come in as a true freshman and add some depth. They brought in that kid. They're going to bring in the kid from Dartmouth, who's originally from Springfield, Ohio, as a depth piece. Maybe he'll crack the 2 deep. One of the Armstrong brothers is still around. Deontay Armstrong will be fighting for a spot on the 2 deep. So they've got some good depth on that offensive line. Ryan Day said we got 7 or 8 guys that we feel like can be good starters. And he was including like Jake Cook as that 8th guy. And then you got guys, like I said, like Carter Lowe, Sam Greer, who are big-time recruits. Carter Lowe will be a redshirt freshman. Sam will be a true freshman, obviously. Tell you what, and then Bo Jackson, the running back room. I just like the tight end room. I like that. I like getting the 2 guys they got in the portal, Mason Williams from OU and Hunter Welsing from Northwestern. 7th-year senior. Jacoby Jackson and Hunter Welsing, 7th-year senior. COVID years are still a thing. All right, guys, I'm going to close up shop now. Thank you very much for joining me. Dan will be with you with Garrick and the Poobah tomorrow, I think. That's typically the plan. And I'll be back with you with J-Book on Friday. Thanks, guys. I appreciate it. Hope you enjoy the rest of your day. Go Bucks.